Thank you all for coming.
Sorry.
Thank you, Trish, for starting the recording. Yes. This is the Los Osos Community Advisory Council meeting. And for April 24th. So let's get going with our roll call. We'll start District 1, Andrea Luker,
Present.
David Cheney.
Oh,
I see you.
I'm gonna ask you to unmute again, David.
Yeah, unmute. District 2, Jim Salio. I see you're there. Yes, present. District 3, Gary Katayama.
Here.
Brad Spar.
Here.
District 4, myself, Deborah Howe. John Lind.
I'm here.
Okay. Trish Bartel.
Present.
Molly Brown.
Present.
Jim Stanfield.
Present.
Wonderful. Chairperson announcements. I'll start off with something from Public Health. Public Health has a program called Healthy Neighborhoods. It is part of their mandate to promote and protect health in SLO County. Los Osos has been chosen by the Department of Public Health as one of 4 communities identified as a high priority for their focus. And I'm just going to read their mission under the Healthy Neighborhoods program. Socially cohesive, vibrant neighborhoods allow people to connect with each other, safely walk and bike, access healthy food and other things they need, and enjoy parks and open space. So they're going to be studying Los Osos and working with us 2 ways to improve our community with that mandate. So we're happy and excited about that. Do we have any council member announcements? Gary?
Yes, Estero-based CERT is being reactivated, and we're going to have our first series of trainings at the community center in June.
Great.
For those of you that don't know, it's a community emergency response team.
Community Emergency Response Team. Excellent. And so the classes are going to be held and you'll get a certification?
I'm not sure about the certification yet, but there's going to be a series of 3 classes that is important for everybody that wants to know what to do in case of emergencies.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Gary. All right, let's move on to county and local reports. I don't see the sheriff here. So we'll go on to CHP.
And I'm going to ask you
James
to
Ferguson.
unmute. Thank you.
Perfect. Sorry about that. I had noted 2 traffic collisions that we actually had over during April. One was on Tapadero Canyon west of Sombrero Drive. It was a hit and run crash that we ended up having. It sounded like a vehicle was parked on the road and they came back from going for a hike and found damage to their car. So unfortunately, there was no other cameras or any type of evidence that would allow us to do any follow-up on that. The second one we had a crash was on Rodman Drive, south of Marin Drive, and it was a DUI crash that we ended up having. It was a solo vehicle, nobody was injured, and the driver was subsequently arrested for a DUI in that crash. And that's my report.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the CHP? I don't see any hands, so thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Basin Management Committee, they did have a meeting, but they didn't provide a report. And so I'm assuming we will be getting a chance to hear from them next month. County staff report from Mason Denning. We don't really have any land use issues, so Mason's not here tonight. We don't need to worry about that. So let's move on to Bruce Gibson report, and I see Blake is here. Hi.
Blake, I'm going to ask you to unmute. There.
There we go. Got it. You'd think I would know what I was doing at this point. Good evening, everybody. Bruce is in Sacramento this week at the California State Association of Counties legislative conference. So he is taking part in that conference, but also while he's in Sacramento lobbying with our state assembly, state senators, and the governor's administration on behalf of all California counties and to SLO. But I am here. I would also like to thank those of you who came to the advisory council training that took place last Friday. Los Osos actually had the biggest turnout of any of the 11 recognized advisory councils. So thank you for all of those of you who came. I know we've got some meat on the LOCAC agenda tonight, so I'll keep my prepared comments brief, but I'd be remiss not to at least bring up at the May 6th Board of Supervisors meeting will be the introduction of the fiscal year 25-26 budget. I think Bruce and I have spoken about this over the last few months that we're anticipating this to be a really challenging budget year. We're looking at approximately a $30 to $50 million budget gap between where our revenues are and where our expenses are. That wide gap is heavily dependent on where things shake out with the state budget. A significant portion of county funding comes from the state. So what that's going to mean is we're expecting some structural cuts to programs and staff starting in fiscal year 2025. That'll take place, the actual board hearings for the budget will take place in June. We'll, of course, keep you updated as to what is potentially, for lack of a better term, on the chopping block. But it's going to be a big tightening of the belt from where we have been in previous years. That's really, I looked on the, what was going on in Los Osos and what was coming up on the supervisor's agenda. There wasn't really a ton. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but otherwise I can keep my report brief.
Hey, thank you. Blake, do we have questions? John?
I wasn't sure when to bring this up, but since we don't have a county staff person, then Blake is going to be my sounding board.
Gladly.
We're aware that on Petcho, where there's about 50 eucalyptus trees lining Petcho, as you all know, they all got big white dots on them. In the past couple of days, I saw a surveyor down there. I didn't know what he was up to, but afterwards we found that they had been marked as if, they're going to meet their maker. So we don't know if it means that or anything. Davies Tree Service was the person that put up a sign, and I apologize, I didn't ask him I didn't see that sign until later. But we'd like to know if there's any request for a permit to cut down or modify those trees in any way. As you know, they're very valued by the community.
Yeah, I don't know, John, but I will definitely find out for you.
All right.
Whether it's removal or maybe just hopefully trimming. I mean, I know that they do regular trimming,
Sure.
but I'll find out tomorrow and follow up with you.
Hey, thank you very much.
Oh yeah, you bet.
Hey, Andrea?
Hey Blake, can you bring us any up to speed about anything with the Anastasi project?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So
Don't forget that one.
no, that was a big one, but that was a couple weeks ago, so it's already escaped my brain. I think it was, oh gosh, I'm making up dates now, but I want to say it was April 8th that a judge overturned the Board of Supervisors position on approval of the Anastasi subdivision. You might recall that the board heard that in, what was it, October of, was that 24? Was that 23? Goodness. Was it that far back? Was it just 24?
I think it's 24.
Okay, good. It wasn't too terribly far back.
Yeah.
So the board did pass that on a 3-2 decision. I will note that Supervisor Gibson voted against it on the grounds that while the sewer was built, it was not, quote, available to the subdivision. That was the large basis for why the judge made their finding that the subdivision was to be denied and overturned the board's decision. So I don't yet know if Anastasi has appealed that decision to a higher court. They were under the normal indemnity clause, so the county isn't necessarily a stakeholder in this at any point other than our name was on the approval. So we'll wait and see. But I know at least from this council that was opposed to that subdivision and Bruce's position that we were pleased with the judge's decision.
Thanks. Yeah, I will appreciate you keeping us updated on that. Thanks, Blake.
Yeah, you bet.
Blake, on that subject, are you aware that the county council might appeal that decision?
County council would not appeal. It would be the applicant. There's no reason for the county to appeal the decision. That would be weighing in on a private development. So our decision was made back in October of 2024, and we're hands off at this point.
All right, Jim.
I thought I heard, and I don't know where I heard it, but I thought I heard that it was going to closed session to make a decision on whether the county would appeal or not, because the county was the one that granted the authority. So their decision was overturned by the courts. So they do have standing in it.
I think they could, but I would be very surprised if they did.
Do you know if it's on for closed session?
Let me take a look at the board
I
packet
feel like
here.
I did see it on I feel like I saw it on a closed session somewhere. It must be yours.
Let's take a look here. I've got the agenda open. So give me a second. I'll look it up and I'll put that in the chat just for the sake of time.
Kind of the same. If we can go back real quickly, Deborah, if I can just jump on, John mentioned the trees along Petcho, and I'm wondering, is there a relationship to the Anastasi project and those trees, or are they in a different spot on Petcho, John?
No, they're right next to the Anastasi project,
They are.
right on the street.
Okay, and we had heard months ago after October, but not lately, that they were going to start clearing that lot in April. So hopefully that dot project was just premature. And we won't see, what happens here in Los Osos is we see the trees and they come down and then,
Too late.
And then it turns out it wasn't supposed to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we'll have to strap ourselves to a few trees here over the weekend.
All right. We'll make the news then.
I'm going to give you some time, Blake, to check that out. And
Yeah,
we'll
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Any other questions? I don't see any, so we'll move on. CSD report, I see Chris Womack.
Chris, I'm going to ask you to unmute. There you go.
There it is. Hello. So weed abatements inspections are coming up. Given the ongoing wildfire problem statewide, the CSD wants property owners to be aware of the upcoming property inspections for weed abatement and other fire hazards. Inspections begin on May 1st with the first notifications to be sent out May 22nd. We will be being a little more aggressive on enforcement this year because of the changing climatic conditions we've been experiencing. If you have any questions or want to report an issue, the best way to do so is by using the district's website and clicking on the Contact Us option at the top of the page. Financial year 2025-2026 budget preparations underway. The board will be looking at the 2025-2026 draft budget at our May 1st meeting. The district has 8 different funds. The main ones are admin, fire, water, solid waste, drainage, parks and rec. Most of the funds are healthy in terms of revenue versus expenses for the upcoming year. Fire, for the first time in 25 years, is showing a budget deficit caused by the increase in county CAL FIRE contract. There will be more discussions on the options available to the community on this in the near future. I always feel like I'm the one coming to LOCAC telling you guys that we've got rate increases coming. Is it my imagination? They always pick me. So we tentatively approved a 3-year water rate plan in the district for water service area at the April board meeting. The plan calls for modest increases each year to fund the increasing cost for operation and maintenance and replacing the aging infrastructure. Prop 218 notices were mailed earlier this week to property owners and water customers, which includes information on the rate increase and how to protest the increase. If you have any questions, contact the office for more information. I just say, you know, like everyone else, we are experiencing inflation, and I think our tendency is to have small, digestible increases over time, so we don't have some giant jump in increases. And I think after 3 years of increases, the total is about $25 per 2-month period. So we're talking about, you know, $12 a month. So I think they're reasonable. Hope you think so. And lastly, the Sunnyside School acquisition update. After a successful town hall meeting on March 22nd, district staff and their team of volunteers are working on the next steps, which include an analysis of ongoing operation and maintenance costs, and will inform the district on what financial support is needed to maintain and operate the property. Planning for a second town hall meeting is underway with the hope of having an event in early June. And we're asking the community to take the online survey, which can be found on the district's website. So any questions or comments?
Any questions for Chris? Thank you, Chris. And yes, I think you can find the survey. Is it on our website too, Gary?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. You can also find the survey on the LOCAC website. So
Okay, great.
thank you so much. All right. We're on to the Chamber of Commerce. Jim?
Yeah, we just had a marvelous boards dinner on April 6th, Sunday evening. We recognized the business of the year. It was Baywood Bed and Breakfast. The new business of the year, New Page, says some, I'm not sure what they do, but they have new electronics paying for restaurant service. Anyway, they're the new business of the year. We recognized the volunteer of the year as Gary Freeberg. He has been a very active member of our community for a number of years, emceeing the music on the greens out at Sea Pines, working with the chamber for the Oktoberfest activities. The Citizens of the Year for the first awarded 2. This is a group independent of the chamber, but we recognize this chamber awards since it's a community event. 2 people were, one, Al Shunk, who was a Kiwanis for years, passed away this past year. I felt it was appropriate that he got an award. We also recognized Dean Sullivan as the Citizen of the Year, owner and editor of the Cerro Bay News. That was a beautiful evening, probably 100 people there. It was very nice event. We're planning for our Festival of Flavor annual event. If you've participated in this, by past or past book, we call it. You go to 18 different vendors, food vendors in the community, and give something for free. So it's a good event. Sell them for $40. This year we're adding another thing. You can buy a second one for another $35, so 2 for $75. The events runs from July 1 to August 15th. The book should be available sometime early June, and we anticipate having 20 to 25 vendors here, which is considerable over our 18 last year. Great event. A lot of people just really love it. The only complaint that was offered last year, we needed more time, so we did extend it by another 2 weeks. It's July 1 to August 15th. Almost every food vendor in town will be on.
Nice.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for that report. And congratulations to all the award winners for the chamber dinner. I don't see any questions for Jim, so let's move on to public comments. This is for items that are not on the agenda. Do I have any public comment? Don't see anything. So we're going to move right to our special presentation by County Public Works. This is to review the draft Los Osos Valley Road corridor study. And Jake, are you going to want to share your screen? Okay, so I'm going to ask you to unmute.
There we go.
And
All right.
then I'm going to.
And then I shared the screen.
So if you can allow me to
I
share.
did.
Okay.
I just
Perfect.
clicked you in.
Okay, great.
Okay.
There we go.
And let me just do a quick check while it loads. So everyone sees sort of a skewed aerial with the title
Yep.
screen.
Yep, we see it.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for having us out this evening. The item before you is the Los Osos Valley Road Corridor Concept Plan. It's something that we've been working to put together over the last 2 years. And however, it's not necessarily something new. What we've been working on is bringing together historically adopted plans for the area. So what we have is there are several high-level plans that have been adopted by the board that primarily are text-based, and they give a general description of what Los Osos Valley Road from all the way from Montana de Oro out to Foothill Boulevard should look like. But in order for us to apply for grant funds, to start thinking about development and property frontage improvements and everything in between, we actually need to start some early steps to begin to design and make and create a vision for how this might look like. And as we anticipated, there are gaps in the plans for the corridor, so not everything lines up perfectly. There are some conflicts that weren't previously anticipated, and so on and so forth. And so part of this plan is not just drawing and designing what's been adopted by the board, but it's also filling in those gaps and figuring out what's feasible and coming up with a strategy for moving forward and implementing those. And that primarily comes from the 2020 and the 2024 community plan, the 2021 circulation study, their Firm Ranch development within the city of San Luis Obispo, identified impacts to LOVR and Foothill Boulevard. And we also have, albeit dated, we also have the county's bikeway plan as well. So the overall goal here is, like as I said, is to prepare a preliminary design based off of all these previously adopted plans, envision how all these things can come together, how they can be implemented, fill in the gaps, and integrate with each other. And then also, in terms of how they integrate with each other, give early opportunities for community input on the design as we move forward into further implementation. So these things all will still need some level of engineering design and very and much more specific input as it's pieced together, because this plan likely won't be implemented all at once. And so as we figure out the sections and we're coming up with and we design it, there will be other opportunities for that as well. Just real quick, I almost forgot. I want to introduce a couple other folks on. I'll leave this up here. Other couple other folks that are here. We have Tyler English. He is our transportation planner with the county. We have Joshua Roberts. He is the transportation czar, oversees everything from maintenance to transportation operations and design. And then I have also had pretty significant help from our consultant team, GTS, and we have Ariel here assisting us as well. So the scope of this plan it stretches, as I said, all the way from the Foothill and LOVR intersection on the far eastern end, all the way to the state park entrance at Montaña de Oro. And essentially what we've broken up the plan essentially into 3 sections. So we look at Los Osos Valley, the community proper as Los Osos goes through that. We look at Los Osos Valley Road to the east as it goes out towards the city of San Luis Obispo. And then we also look at that more of a recreational area out to Montaña de Oro. We've evaluated and built this plan around those 3 concepts, or around those 3 areas. If you can everyone still see my screen?
Absolutely. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not advancing for me. Okay, here we go. There we go. So, like I said, we've been working on this for about 2 years. We've had just such a great level of public engagement, such a great input from LOCAC and from the community. We first introduced this project in July of to this committee in July of 2023. We've been to various public events. We've had open workshops. We've been to other committees, and we've just had just a tremendous amount of feedback and input. And we're really happy and satisfied with, how this represents the overall sentiment of the community. Not only that, but we've also been meeting with our public agency partners, such as Highway Patrol, CAL FIRE, school district. We've also had quite a presence through public media. So we've done interviews and press releases, KSBY. We've, through the county social media, the CSD social media, and we've also had this really powerful online public engagement tool where we've had almost 4,000 unique visitors, so unique computers have come to the website, and of those almost 4,000, we've received 13,000 comments. I'm not aware of another public engagement campaign where we've received more public input that has really driven and shaped a plan like this. So this is something that the community out there should be really proud of. And so from that, we heard a lot of the public's needs and wants and goals in the context of what's currently adopted within the community plan and the bike plan and the circulation study. And so we looked at all those wants and needs, and we evaluated those, with our technical metrics. We evaluate automobiles, delay, queuing, collision history, and safety. We evaluate pedestrians and bicycles. And then from that, we developed a set of, from that, we essentially went to design. We went to work designing what all of these plans that have already been previously adopted, how those could fit, how those could actually be implemented and installed, and where there were conflicts and how we could address those and move forward. So I'm just going to provide, hopefully everyone's had a chance to look through and review the plan. I do have the plan, and we can pull up specific sections, but I'm just going to go through and provide a couple highlights on each of those 3 sections for what's come of the plan. And then, like I said, we can go back and look at those in more detail if there's the need. So for Montaña de Oro to Rodman Drive, that's that first section, more of the recreational area. Currently, that's classified as a Class 2 bike lane. There really is just not enough width, and there's just too many environmental and topographic constraints for us to be able to do that. The cost would be astronomical. Right away and environmental, like I said, impacts would make this a multi-generational project. So our recommendation here is that when we move forward with an active transportation plan, that we look to downclass this from having bike lanes to having essentially what's called a class 3, which is a bike route. So that would include pavement markers, signing, striping, and then enhanced traffic calming features and other things like this. We took this concept to the bicycle advisory committee, and they concurred with this, is that if we would just essentially be spinning our wheels and spending a lot of money trying to pursue widening and almost terraforming in order to get class 2 bike lanes in. So let's look at something, let's scale back a little bit and look at actually getting improvements in on that section. And also, as part of that section, I want to specifically point out the intersection of Rodman and Pacho. We heard a lot from our equestrian community, as well as our bike and pedestrian community, that this was an intersection that was that had a lot of want and need for improvements. We already have some components of a protected trail. But what we're also proposing is to expand the bike ped crossing components, and then also have provisions for equestrians as well, accessing Montana de Oro. So things like that would include a crossing beacons, not a signal necessarily, but crossing beacons and lighting, and then crossing buttons to activate those. That would be both at the lower pedestrian level, but also that would be at a height and would have the access area where someone on a horse would be able to also hit that, be able to access that button as well. And then the full suite of bike and ped improvements on the north side with the protected lane, and then also with a bike lane on the south side, heading towards the school. So there's a lot on the screen here, and that's just because you guys have for the most part seen everything, but I'm happy to zoom in and talk in a little bit more detail. But this is essentially what you see to the north is the school, and the plan is proposing on carrying that protected multi-use bike and pedestrian trail from Rodman all the way to the school, across the frontage of the school, and all the way to Bush Drive, with while still being able to provide on-street vehicle parking, a two-way left turn lane in the middle, and then also class 2. So in addition to the bike pathway, also bike lanes on street with like I said, the full accompaniment of modern standards for bike facilities. Looking a little bit further as we get more into the more commercial core of the section. So Bush Drive, 9th and 10th Street. The prior plan had a lot of was proposing a lot of medians and a lot of turn restrictions. And what we heard from the community is that there's just too much restriction with medians that are continuous across this area. So what we're proposing is a scaled back area, still allowing movements to and from Bush Drive, and then also still allowing providing gaps in the median so that there's access into the shopping center near Sunset Drive, with the planned signalization at these locations. And that signalization is also on the, although the S isn't here, I just noticed that. I want to point that out, is that Fairchild, Sunset, and 10th, they all have some sort of provision for some form of signalized operations. It may not be a full signal, but that's what's planned. That's what's yet to be seen.
Jake, can I stop
Yeah.
you for a sec? Can you make your slides in display mode so we can see them? They're really kind of small.
They are okay. Yeah, let me see if I can do this and zoom
Oh.
in.
That's
I
better.
There we, yeah, that's what I was saying. We can certainly zoom in and
Yeah, that's better. And do
okay.
you want questions now, or do you want to wait till the end and we'll come back?
I think let's go ahead and finish the presentation
Perfect, okay.
and then we'll come back if that's I can do it either way, but I think
It's
that's probably the
fine.
best. Yeah.
I wanted to know what was best for you, so we'll
Yeah.
just keep
Yeah,
going.
I think that's best. And so these are essentially the highlights for the middle section. So essentially still providing the medians that were originally contemplated in the community plan, but scaling them back and still providing access where we heard that there was access that was needed. And the next section,
Yeah.
the next section for Los Osos Valley Road, I'll zoom in a little bit here. This is, essentially maintaining what's out there already along the length of the main corridor, with the exception of Foothill and Los Osos Valley Road. This came out of a development studies in the city of San Luis Obispo, with actually mitigation, with fair share mitigation requirements to improve the intersection of Los Osos Valley Road and Foothill into a multi-lane roundabout. That's not something that would happen in any near-term scenario. I think that was always identified as a long-term solution. So those are the highlights of the plan. Essentially, what you have before you is a completed final draft that is that we are effectively ready to present to the board. But before we do that, we want any additional input, and we're seeking concurrence from LOCAC, and that's tonight. And then our plan is to present the final draft to the board for consideration on July 8th. And all this information, I don't know if anybody here has been to the website, but the website is still active and still available. So all the actual full draft plan itself, all of the public input and feedback, all that's still available for review. And this was just, it was something that I put together as sort of maybe a lead-in or recommendation on what we're asking LOCAC to provide. So essentially, like I said, the staff recommendation to LOCAC is, endorsing the draft plan for board approval. And that can come with, that doesn't have to be exactly as is. We certainly can take that to the board with committee comments and notes and other things. Or if the committee doesn't feel like the plan is fully baked enough, to request that we take a pause on the plan, that has some pretty significant implications, such as additional costs and development time and other things like that we would have to evaluate. But that's just this is just sort of a leader on maybe two potential paths that that the committee may have. So with that, what I'd like to do before I hand it back over to the committee is open it up for any comments from my colleagues, and or GTS, if there's something I missed, or if there's anything else that they'd like to add. So that's Josh, Tyler, or Ariel.
Oh,
Let's see.
Do you have a hands up? I can't tell.
I see Josh, I see Tyler, but I don't see their hands up. So does that mean no comment?
I must have nailed the presentation.
okay. Take that as a nail.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to leave my presentation up for now so that I can navigate through this, because I imagine questions will be related to that.
Yeah.
And I do also have we did receive a list of comments from Deborah representing LOCAC. And I also have the full plan here if there's any specific pages that we want to get into. It's a big plan. There's a lot of stuff there. So I try to keep it high level here in the presentation.
Thank you, Jake. So, just regarding the possibility to pause this plan and instead of approving it as is, is there an urgency to getting this done, or is this more a financial concern for this to be paused, or both?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of implications to pausing the plan. Some of the bigger ones would be as development is coming in, development is responsible for implementing its frontage improvements, and without a codified adopted plan, those frontage improvements would essentially just be installed uh, as is without the detailed direction that we're providing as part of this plan. There's always also funding opportunities that come up, and if we press pause on this, we could potentially be leaving grant grant funding on the table without the plan being developed. Um, and then also, the other concern is that this, like I said, like I've said earlier in this plan, we really have just an awesome cross section of community sentiment within this plan. It's by far the most that I've seen proportionate to the community size. And so I'm not sure that there's a compelling reason other than just fine tuning. But I think it's really just missing opportunities for implementation is the biggest drawback.
Okay. So I've provided some comments from the Transportation Committee that are quite specific, but I'm going to allow the council, if you have a comment that you want to bring up right now, then I want to give you that opportunity to do that. Otherwise, I do have some things that I think are worth taking a look at. Andrea.
I have just a general question, not really in particular to pause the plan, but it looks like you're taking it to the board in July. And so I guess my question would it be feasible for us to digest this tonight and maybe over the next few weeks and have a second discussion on this at our May let's see, we're in April now, in our May meeting, because it's a lot to take in, and I think it might be nice to be able to have this document available on our website so the public can take one more look at it. That's just my thought. I don't think that really causes pausing. It just is, we wouldn't make it. I think it's going to be, I feel like I'm going to be hard pressed to agree on a recommendation tonight, because there's a lot of information. Just my thoughts. Thanks.
Jim Stanfield, I'm going to ask you to unmute Jim.
Hang for about 10 minutes.
Sorry. I only have.
Yeah, I agree
people.
with Andrea a great deal. I saw this report and started looking at it. There's just a lot of detail. I would be interested. You say there's been a lot of community input so far. What are the kinds of things that have communities expressed? Have you adjusted or made changes as a result of that input?
Yeah, absolutely. This is really a community-driven plan. So where we started was with, like I said, the plans that have already been adopted, that have been supported by the community. Um, and so what we've just been doing is filling in the gaps and making minor adjustments. And the community has absolutely um, has absolutely driven the development of that plan over the last 2 years.
Trish.
I have a question on the December 4th meeting that we had at the CSD offices. The Rodman and Pacho intersection, we were told it was going to be an equestrian crosswalk, and now I'm hearing it's just going to be some lights or.
No. It's so essentially what we're proposing is to make a crossing that would accommodate bikes, peds, and equestrians. And so what you do for equestrians is you likely have, or what you typically do for equestrians is you have a larger pad area for the animal. You have your buttons are raised higher so that someone, up that are sitting higher and on on a saddle. They can reach the button without having to lean way over.
Right.
So those are the types of features that we would be integrating into that intersection. And that's not to say that that's only what we would be doing. I feel like this plan is a high level conceptual document. When we actually get into the design of the electrical equipment and where things are situated, and there's a lot of great information to help us get into the detailed design level. And we would also be seeking input from our equestrian community as we get into the nitty gritty of the design. But it's absolutely a bike ped and equestrian crossing is what we're proposing.
Yeah, because there's about 3 to 4 horses a day that try to go across that street.
Okay, anybody else? David?
David?
Yeah. I still haven't quite figured out how to raise my hand on Zoom. It's on my on my device, so I'm doing it the manual way. So I like the details of the plan. With a few of the comments that we had, and appreciate the amount of work that has gone into it. The thing that I guess I reacted to in reading it was more in the way it was presented. I commented that it could really, to me, it could really use a executive summary, so you get some of the main ideas up front. As you're reading it, you don't really get to any understanding about what's in the plan until about page 50. And then the beginning of the plan sounds like, we had a bunch of earlier plans that hadn't gotten implemented, so we needed to put them together and make a new plan. Whereas to me, the purpose of the plan is really to improve Los Osos's main street. I mean, LOVR is the street that connects everything in the town, the businesses, the schools, the libraries, the recreational opportunities, and it's currently a good thoroughfare for automobiles, but it's sort of at best unpleasant and at worst unsafe for pedestrians and bicycles. So some sense early in the plan that this is what we're trying to do and why it's important. It's a really kind of to bring the whole community together and make it much more livable and walkable. It doesn't really come out in the beginning of the plan. So I think that would, maybe that's not the purpose of this plan, because it's really a plan for the Public Works Department to implement. But I think if you go to funders, it would be useful to say, just why this plan is actually so important to the community.
I think David makes a good point, and I think one of the reasons why that's not coming out as strong as it might is because we are using a document, prior document, the bike waste plan, which is from 2016. And what we really need is an active transportation plan, which I know that is in the works. But if we actually had active transportation as a consideration, there would be more emphasis on that in terms of, the purpose of the plan and how that's integrated into the plan. When we talked about this in committee, we felt like we wanted to hear a stronger emphasis on the purpose of the plan and what we decided to call first principles. In other words, if there is a conflict or a tension at some point in the future, which of course will happen, we want there to be established first principles of what's the most important thing to consider when making a decision. And for us, safety, bike safety and safe routes to school is the highest priority. And we didn't feel like that was really stated strongly enough, perhaps, in the purpose of the plan. So I don't know, we're not trying to write this plan for you. We're just trying to express that, a desire for that to be really emphasized, because we feel like that's where some of our funding is going to come from. We feel like funding is going to look at this favorably if we have that as one of our goals. Tyler, I saw your hand was, no, your hand is not up. Okay, great. All right. So,
John's hand's up.
oh, there you are, John. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. One concern that has been talked about as we early on, I don't know how it might be resolved, is, we're concerned about a walking trail or pathway for bikes and pedestrians, and particularly a bottleneck is Monarch School heading east it's easy enough at the Midtown area to run a trail, but as you know, there's I don't know, about 4 or 5 households that extend out into LOVR a little further than it would be desirable, so that we could continue the walking trail and bike path through that area. And I'm talking about just across from Monarch School heading east. Could you explain how that bottleneck might be resolved in terms of getting the pathway to continue?
Yeah, so I'm going to show you both ends of the pathway. So essentially, there are components of a pathway that are already built, essentially near the Rodman area. I think it terminates and somewhere up in here, or this is yeah in this area. So the idea is to create a continuous protected pathway from Pecho that from Pedro at Rodman that connects all the way around the corner to where it turns into Los Osos and essentially all the way to Doris. And we uh, base off of the modifications to the roadway and markings and modifications to minor modifications to the existing sidewalk, we can make that continuous connection all the way from Doris to Rodman.
Right, but
It's
now we're
the
talking
other
about the next
side.
stretch.
It's
Oh,
the
on
other side of Doris
It's
that
the other
he's
side of
concerned
Doris
about.
that's the problem.
okay, yeah. And so the so right now the all the planning documents that are currently adopted don't have a continuation of uh, of the pathway past the park, and it drops into essentially a wide sidewalk along the side. So the pathway really hasn't been contemplated in through the more urbanized central area of Los Osos. And although we did receive a lot of comments for crossing improvements across Los Osos, my recollection is we really didn't get a lot of requests for improvements to the existing sidewalk other than closing gaps. Obviously, when there's gaps in the
This is a
sidewalk,
gap. This is
yeah, there's
exactly
definitely
that.
gaps, and that is included within the plan.
Well, that's
The
what I'm asking. What are you proposing east of Doris?
so that's a
Yeah, so
content.
we're looking Palisades to Doris. I think we're missing that section. That's what we need.
Yeah, and I can pull that up in the plan, but essentially it's a basically closing the gaps and having a continuous pedestrian connection along the entire section all the way up to South Bay. And then beyond South Bay on the south side, having some sort of trail connection that goes out to the small state park that's out in that area.
I'm sorry, but your map shows stops at Doris, correct? Could you show the next stretch? Am I
Yeah,
missing something?
yeah. This is just a highlight section. If you just give me a moment here, I'll have to dig into the plan.
Yeah. You know, Jake, what we're talking about here is the constraints of the existing homes that are too close to the road to allow for a
Continuous.
bike pedestrian pathway.
Yeah,
And I believe John's question is, how do we overcome that constraint?
yeah. So in terms of is this not it's a little bit blurry for me. Is it blurry for you too?
Not that clear.
No, it looks good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll keep going. Let's
Yeah,
see.
so here's Doris, and so we're looking at and
Yeah.
there's absolutely
bottom.
gaps on the south side. These are these are individual properties. They wouldn't as these redevelop or they're as they would trigger permit conditions, they would be required to install their frontage improvements, which would include sidewalks. So that would be along here and here on the south side. But you're absolutely right. There are properties that are very close to the roadway on the north side. And we've identified constraints within those properties where if we're providing per the currently adopted plans, as we've talked about, both a class 2 and a class 1, so that would be both bike lanes and the protected bike path, that would require significant property acquisition and encroachment into buildings and properties. And so what is being proposed is, in lieu of, I need to pull up the, I'm not, the alternative I think is in a different section. What's being proposed is, in lieu of, because we've got the protected path on the north side, it's not ideal for bicycles to have to ride with pedestrians. But since we already have the protected path on the north side, we would eliminate the class 2 lanes on the north side and have only the bike path on the north side. And I'll ask Ariel, what section is that alternative in, or what page shows that?
See if I can find him.
Oh,
Let me
yeah.
see if I can, oh, there, I just went right past you.
There you go.
I'm
I
gonna
asked you
ask
to
you to unmute. There you go.
Oh,
You. For this section, for this section, we did not develop a secondary alternative. It's for the downtown area between approximately Bush and Sunset, that there are a couple of different alternatives.
yeah, this is, having that bike pedestrian pathway all the way to the school. It's a safe routes to school issue. And we're scratching our heads trying to figure out how are you going to do that with the homes being so close. So what I'm hearing you saying, Jake, is at some point those homes will be sold or changed, and that would force them to do some modification.
That's on the, yeah, that is on the south side. There is there is an alternative. It should be in this version where essentially we eliminated the class 2 lanes and pushed the class 1 multi-use path forward so that
Oh.
we're not encroaching on the properties as much, and even in some cases, so you can see the property line here is that dashed line, and
Right.
it's very small, but essentially it's we're able to push that forward
Mhm.
by eliminating the class 2 lanes, and that's the
And then would it
alternative.
still be protected though?
It would still be protected, but we would lose the class 2, the bike lane, the on-street bike lanes, in order
Mhm.
to not encroach on those properties. And that's what's ultimately being proposed
Okay,
as the alternative.
okay.
It's a big document. Looks like Ariel's just not able to find the look at the section right now, but that is
Okay.
the recommendation.
So in other
Okay.
words, if you're a pedestrian and you're walking on the north side to Monarch School from from Palisades, you would be safe to walk on the north side of LOVR.
You would be, yeah, you would have a curb and a wide sidewalk that separates you from the vehicles. You would also have a parking lane and a bike lane separating you as well.
Okay.
It's quite a bit of separation.
So, since you're on this section, Jim, I do see your hand up, but since we're on this section, I just want to point out that one of our comments regarding Pine Avenue had to do with bus turning radius. The public buses, when they turn to go onto Pine Street, cannot make that turn. The intersection is too narrow, and they have to go into the opposing lane in order to get around that corner. Is there a solution for that?
Yeah, and actually this is, like I said, in working with our public agency partners, not just RTA potential, but also with the schools. Essentially what we would be able to do is when that pathway is installed, though, we would be able to rework those corners with larger radiuses so that the buses would be able to make that turn without having to cross over.
Okay, yeah, because that's space, I mean, there's space there to do it. We just have to know
It
what
just
to
has
do.
to be done. Yeah.
Yeah, Jim, I see your hands up.
Yeah, thanks, Deborah. So, Jake, what are you trying to get at from us? Do you want in your board letter for this project, do you want to say that the LOCAC is in agreement with this plan? Or do you want to say, did you just bring it to LOCAC and here's their comments?
No, we would like, I mean, if, uh, I think ideally what we would like is an endorsement of the plan, for board approval, that you like this plan. It's something that, that you'd like to see approved.
So
Yeah.
here's the problem, Jake, is that as I see it, is that Public Works doesn't have a lot of experience working with LOCAC. So you didn't kind of work with us from the very beginning. You gathered a lot of information, and we have a transportation committee within LOCAC that could be reviewing this and giving comment back and that kind of stuff. So this is kind of like we're at or it sounds like we're close to the finish line, and we're just kind of working out a process to get this approved by us. And so you can tell by all the comments, there's a lot of questions, and it's a big important document. So I'm going to defer to Deborah, and I'm not sure what the best way for us to get there is, whether it goes back to to transportation to look at it again, or make a recommendation back to the entire LOCAC board, like we do with other land use situations from planning. But this is to me, it doesn't feel like this is the way that we're going to get a final consensus from the board on this by trying to piece this together right here and now.
Okay. Thank you for that, Jim. Anybody else have a comment?
I'm not prepared to make that motion or even act on it. Agree with Andrea, we need a little more time.
Okay, Jim feels that way too. All right. Well, yeah, Andrea.
I was just gonna say, I think we can get there with comments. I mean, I think we can I think we get there, but we just need some more time. And I don't necessarily think it means we're gonna pause the project, so funding's at risk. But I think we can, move along in the next month, I would guess. But Deborah, yeah, I'll kind of defer to you as the almighty president, chairperson.
Yeah, I have an advantage because obviously being on the transportation committee and having been heavily involved with this, I know a lot more about this plan than the rest of you. So unless you're on my committee for transportation, which, love to have you, but if you're not on that committee, then this is probably the first time you're really taking a close look at some of these proposals. And so I can understand the hesitation to take a motion or make an approval of this concept plan at this time. I'm happy to keep going and talking about our comments. There are a couple that I think are pretty high priority, but for the most part, I think, Jake, you've addressed some of the things that were of concern. Certainly that involves signals and flashing lights and things like that. But Gary, I see your hands up. Gary.
I need to unmute.
Oh,
there you go. Unmute.
Yes, just a quick comment. I'm assuming we should put this on the website.
Yeah, I think we should put it on the website unless there's a reason not to. Jake, are you okay with us putting it on the website?
Oh, absolutely. It's on the CSD website. I don't think staff has access to your website, but it's also on the county's website as well. So you could use those links. I could send those links to you if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean it is on our website as among the committee files, and but it's not as obvious as it should be.
Right. We would put it on the front page so everybody would find it right away. Right now it's under documents for both the meeting tonight and also for the transportation meeting. Let's see, Tyler, I think you put something in there about, okay. So how do we want to proceed? Do we want to take this up next month after everybody's had a chance to take a look at this? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right. Do we need to take a vote on it or you want to just,
Do it.
Well, the only thing is that and I'll say is I don't know that we can commit to exactly next month. I would just if we're gonna postpone it, what we'll do is staff will because that's not something we were necessarily anticipating. I would just say that postpone it, and then we'll work with you to find the most the earliest date possible to move this forward. So
okay.
like a future date to be determined.
And in the meantime, Jake, this is what I'm hearing from my council is that they want the transportation committee to come to them with a recommendation. Yes, we can fully support this, or no, we have reservations. And we have our comments and we have our recommendations, but it's not something that I think is a deal killer here. We just need to have those concerns addressed and understand that those things can be addressed in the plan as it exists right now. And right now, we don't have that confidence. I'm not saying we can't get there. And because of that, we can't really bring that recommendation to the council at large. Does that make sense?
Um,
Kind of?
yeah, I'm sorry. Was that a question for me? I'm sorry.
No, Annie, it's really a question for everybody.
Okay.
no,
Does it make
that's,
sense
that's
to the
right.
council?
Makes sense.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so we're prepared to bring to the council a recommendation as long as we have some of our concerns addressed. And so we will work with you, Jake and Tyler, to make sure we get that done, and then we can get this, signed, sealed, and delivered.
Deborah,
Yeah.
why wouldn't county staff there work directly with your committee to try to hammer something out?
Yeah, I think that's what we'll do.
That's what we're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we'll do. Yeah. Okay.
And
Any other questions, comments?
Deborah, would you propose then listing all the questions and presenting them to the county and then let them cogitate and get together then rather than just sit over on either side of the table?
Yeah, actually, I have sent them over, but they only got
Okay.
them yesterday or this morning.
Okay.
And I did send those same comments to every council member, so you should have them, but you probably haven't had time to go through this plan in any detail. So I think we just need a little more time and a little more reassurance that some of our concerns are addressed within the plan, and then we'll see where we'll go.
Deborah, did you want to open this up for any public comment? Were you
I
going to go
think we
there?
should.
Yeah.
I think we should. We haven't
Mhm.
done it, but I think thank you for reminding me, Andrea.
Of
Do we
course.
have any public comments on the Los Osos Valley Road corridor concept plan?
I do not see any hands up. I just scroll through
Or did you? Okay.
all people. Nope, there's no hands up.
Okay. So last chance. Raise your hand.
I'll scroll through one more time.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. So does that sound okay for you, Jake, as far as how we're going to move forward?
It does. What I will say is that we will, there is a pretty long lead up time for processing board agenda items and other things. So we'll be removing the item from the board. And then once we have, a clear time frame moving forward, after working with your transportation board and you, I think then we'll look to identify a new board date after that, and then we'll also like I said, we'll have to assess the implications may be pretty minor additional costs, and it may be a really small delay in the board when we can get back to the board. But I just wanted to just acknowledge that we're going to have to pull this from the July. Well, it was the July meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
To give it,
All
to
right.
give us that additional time.
I think it's much better that you go before the board with the approval from LOCAC.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, we feel that way too. And Blake, I'll make sure to get a copy of our comments to you as well, so you know kind of what we're thinking. All right, well, it's just such an important document. We know going forward that it's really going to be the blueprint for our community, and we want to make it the best that we can. So thank you very much, Public Works, for taking the time to work with us on this and really getting it where we feel comfortable. So thank you.
All right. Thanks for having us.
Sure, absolutely. And Jake, I'll be in touch.
Okay.
All
Sounds
right,
good.
thank you.
All right. Thank you.
So now we can move on to committee reports. We're going to do treasurer's report. Jim, where are you?
Yes,
There you are.
our opening balance was $1,673.17. Got interest income of 14 cents. The charges of our Zoom conferences for our Zoom expenses. I got a statement fee, $5. Our check for chamber dues came through, so we had expenses of $115. So our ending balance was $1,558.31.
Thank you. All right. We're going to be talking more about budget later, council members, because we need to prepare a budget for next year, 25, 26. And so we need to get
Budget
that.
year runs from June 1 to May 31st. So
Right. So
next
we
month
want
is
to
the time.
be able to present a budget next month for for next year. So we're going to talk about that today, later. Land use, Jim,
Nothing to report from the land use committee.
and trees and landscape. Andrea?
Yes, on Sunday, the 27th, we'll be planting on the north side of Los Osos Valley Road on private property between Broderson and Ravina. We're planting oaks, the project that you approved, at 10 a.m. We have plenty of help, but if you just want to come by for fun, please feel free. We did go over and above on this. We did talk to the county about it to make sure they knew we were out there. We did the, the call before you dig group. So I think we're completely under control. I also will say that we've developed a release of liability for any LOCAC event. If you want to use that release of liability, it's going to be on the website, basically for volunteers. So for like tree planting people. And then we've also, thanks to David and to Gary, we updated our little blurb on the website for Tree and Landscape Committee, and we also added a sign up Genius link for people that want to help water some trees here and there. So yeah, we're excited about this project, and I always want to make sure, John, if you have anything to add.
I would just add that we have a new water tank there at the site that we're going to be using, and with the help of some tree service folks, we have donations of mulch, and we are looking forward to planting this couple 100 feet of new trees for Los Osos, about 17 there on the north side, and you'll as you go by there, you can see the property owner has mowed the area, so our weed pulling won't be so hard. But come on out 10 o'clock Sunday and say hi.
Tell us again the location.
This is between Palisades and Pine, in an open area, just past the Midtown County property.
Yeah, very exciting. You got,
on the
I
north
have to
side.
give it to Tree and Landscape. You guys really gotten organized and are accomplishing big things. So we're excited and we appreciate it very much.
Just wanted to comment, Rotary Club is joining together with Andre and John, trying to get some trees down in Bayside. a joint project is in formation.
That's great that Rotary's doing that, Jim.
Yeah.
All right, great, thank you.
Active transportation, well, I think we've said enough there already. We did a lot of transportation already. I will work with my committee and get you a recommendation from the committee regarding this concept plan. You should all have a copy. I emailed you a copy of our comments. They're quite specific, page 89, and then what our concern or reference was. So you should be able to go and, take a look at the plan sheets and have a clear understanding of what we're talking about. And if you don't, then you know how to reach me. Consent agendas, items, we have none. Regular agenda items, we have none. I put review of policies and procedures document on here because we do want to redo and review the election section. Right now, our system of elections is, Trish, why don't you explain our system of elections?
It's kind of archaic, but we've tried making some changes to it through the years. So the way that they're written in the bylaws is each district, every 2 years, one of the persons in each district is up for reelection. So there's a certain time period that you can go door to door, put up signs, do all of that kind of thing to a $300 minimum cost. We have one location where people who want to come vote for one of the representatives will come down to that site. They need to show ID to prove that they live in that area so that District 1 is not voting for District 4. And then they sign the ballot and we tally them at the end of the day. Can this be done electronically? I'm sure it can. But the reason it was done that way is they were having people voting in the wrong district because they wanted to vote for their friends. And so the only way we could figure it out is you had to show some sort of, utility bill or ID or something to prove where you lived. So that's the old way.
Yeah, and so the problem is we don't get very many people voting. I mean, you have to physically show up and, vote on that day. So we'd like to have the committee, Andrea, I see your hands up, but we need to have a committee that's going to look at this situation and come back with some recommendations. There is a software called Election Buddy where you can do elections online. I don't know very much about it. But I know that there's resources out there. And so we have elections coming up next year in 2026. We need to, number one, put in the budget what the cost of this election is going to be for us. So we need to understand our costs. And we need to have, that election process in place and changed in the bylaws, the policies and procedures, not the bylaws, but policies and procedures for how this election will be run. So that's the task at hand. And Andrea, your hand is up. So does that mean you're in charge of that?
Volunteer.
Well, I kind of remember at a previous meeting that Jim Salio, because I complained about it so much, that he nominated me and then he agreed to do it too. So I think it's Jim and I.
All right.
Salio, and I thought it was somebody else.
Yeah, it was me.
I'm Brad.
Brad, yeah.
Okay, Brad, gotcha.
Yeah, we're just
sorry.
waiting for our leader to call a meeting, Andrea.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I totally forgot about it, but I made notes. So I'm very sorry. I will get it together.
That's
Brad.
why I put it on the agenda because I do.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about budget. Jim's going to put together a budget next month, and we need to have some cost in there some estimate of cost of what this is going to be. Now, I will say that a couple years ago, we had an election, and with that election, we also had what we called an outreach event. We rented the Red Barn. We had presentations. Bruce Gibson was there. I did a active transportation presentation. We gave away free ice cream. Rideshare was there doing, bike safety checks. And so we kind of had a little event. Maybe we want to do that again. I don't know. But if we do, we should make sure it gets put in the budget so we have the money for it next year. What's happening with our funding, which normally comes through Supervisor Gibson, is not going to come through Supervisor Gibson. Blake, is it next year, 2026? Or, yeah. It's going to come through the CAO, Matt Pontus. He's going to be handing out the money to advisory groups, not just ours, but all of them. So we're not going to be going to Supervisor Gibson and say, oh, please give us, 1,000, 15, whatever it is that we need for that year. However, we have an opportunity to ask for some money right now, I believe, is my understanding. And so we should get our act together and do that. Blake?
There we go. Yeah, I had mentioned this to the folks that were at the advisory council training. And I think this will also kind of dovetail with the budget discussion you're about to have. But as part of the budget cuts, one of the proposed cuts is the supervisors' community grant funds, their discretionary funds that they get. And that is how we've traditionally funded our advisory councils. With those going away, however, it was important, and the supervisors impressed upon the CAO's office that advisory councils still need to get funded to carry out their work. We have been told that there will still be money set aside for the advisory councils, the recognized 11 countywide through the CAO's office. So this will be starting effective, the new fiscal year, which for us is in July. So what we do have, we can hopefully fill you guys up for your next year. But bear with us as we transition to this new model of funding coming through the administrative office. We'll work it out, but just to give you guys the update as to how that would work going forward.
Yeah. Jim?
Election Buddy is free for 20 voters.
Is that good or bad?
Probably plenty of voters based on our last results.
The first 20 get to vote. But
I actually don't think it's very expensive. I think it's about 250 for 10,000 voters.
It's 299, yeah, for 10,000 voters. Yeah.
And I think they send
it's
the
actually
ballots
100,000 voters. 100,000.
And I think they send the ballots out. I don't know. I haven't gotten very far in the website.
No, I'm just looking at the website. So yeah, it's
all right. I'll let you guys figure that out.
We'll get together soon.
Yeah, I just want to get that on the radar. And also, again, another cost item is we talked about doing some in-person meetings. I advocate for doing at least one in-person meeting of the council when we bring on new council members. So after an election, we have some new people coming in. We should do at least one in-person meeting. We talked to Ron Munns at the CSD. We can have that room. That room is available to us with coordination with them. So at no cost.
Yeah.
So that's an option. Anyway, just kind of throwing a bunch of stuff at you right now to think about, because we want to start making some decisions by next month in terms of what we're going to need for our budget going forward. And then
It would be helpful if people contact Deborah and indicate for your committee what is your desire for next. This has to come in the budget. We're going to approve hopefully next month. So she needs the next 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me know as soon as you can. Anything else? Anything I missed? Just overall, how do you feel about that, the quarter plan?
Well,
I don't,
I think that we have given the same comments for the past year. And I'm just a little
Don't see 'em.
concerned that a lot of them
Yeah.
were not adapted after we've told them 3 or 4 times how important certain things were to Los Osos.
Brad?
and I can't figure out why resolving or at least submitting these comments is going to have an impact on their July board meeting. I mean, we're in May, for crying out loud.
He's already indicated, right, he's gonna move that date. I think that was one of the comments.
Oh, yeah, but
Might have been closing.
why?
You can't do it in July.
I can
Yeah,
answer
so
that
my
if you
my
want.
understanding, Brad, is they want LOCAC to say we 100% support this plan.
Right.
And we're not ready to do that,
No,
so
I
they're not
agree.
ready to go to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
Yeah,
Jim will
it-
fill you in on how that works.
Yeah, it has to go through so many different layers to get approved to go to before the board.
Right.
And so to get something on
Okay.
a board agenda, it has to be ready about 2 months before. So it's a lengthy process because county council is going to have to review it and the CAO's office is going to have to
Okay.
review it. So it's a lengthy, that's legitimate. I mean, they probably, my guess is that they probably thought this was going to go through pretty quickly and we would just okay it and they could move on. I think we were kind of an afterthought.
Yeah, that's just a weird, I thought it was
Just the way they think of us.
Yeah. Well, we'll show
Yeah.
them.
well, I think we're one of the more organized and thoughtful groups. And so I think maybe they're not used to that. But yeah, I thought it was interesting with the expectation. I was kind of shocked at the expectation. But so Deborah, just so everyone's clear, so everyone's gonna take a in-depth look. We're gonna look at your comments more. And then are we gonna put this on our agenda for the May meeting to hopefully have a final decision on what we want to forward to the county? Is that what you're thinking?
So I think really to make this the most productive is that you should all review the comments and the draft report, and then we should have an online discussion amongst ourselves about whether or not, we can move forward with the plan the way it is. Now, what I need to do on my end is get with Jake and say, this is not being addressed in the plan unless you can show me somewhere else. I still have a concern about that. So I'll give you a perfect example. Pacho Road, where it comes out of Sea Pines, they've added a crosswalk there, and there's a curve in the road coming out of Montana de Oro where if you're a pedestrian crossing within that crosswalk, nobody's going to see you until they're already on top of you. And I don't ever remember seeing a crosswalk there on any of the prior plans. So I'm questioning, whose idea was that? And why would you put a crosswalk there? There's nothing on the other side except the nursery and no sidewalk. So I don't have an answer to that question. And so I need them to explain to me why a crosswalk is being put there. There are other places they could put a crosswalk by Monarch School where kids are actually crossing the street with no crosswalk. That make more sense. So I just need to get some clarity on some of the issues that were brought up in the committee. And once I have that, I can bring that back to you. But if you have comments beyond what you've seen me put
Get
together,
them to you.
then you need to bring them to me as well.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll mash them all together and we'll see if Jake can get them all, addressed.
And we'll have another LOCAC discussion at
We'll have
some
another
point.
LOCAC discussion, but at that meeting, I'm going to say, my goal would be our meeting in May, we would either say, yes, this is good to go, or we're going to say, no, you're going to have to pause it and go back a couple of steps. And what they're telling me is that it's going to cost money. They're going to have to go get more funding. It's going to they have to go back out and everybody has to review it if we make changes to it. So they're making it sound very, very difficult, which is not to say that we can't or won't do it.
Okay. Good. Sound perfect. Thank you.
Okay, David.
Yeah, and it's a little unclear when one of our options was to approve it with comments, because I mean, it seems like we're approving them with the understanding that our comments are going to be addressed to our satisfaction. We're not approving it, right, for them to hear our comments and then do nothing with the comments. So
That's exactly what they're saying. That we would approve it the way it is, but our comments would be attached, but they would actually not have any weight.
So it seems like we really want them is to,
That's my
we want
understanding.
confidence that we want confidence that they are addressing our comments.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
I think so. That's how I feel about it. So let's see where we can go.
Well, it's
I'd
a big
to-
deal.
Yeah.
You know what? It's such a big deal because once it's written, it's really hard to change it. It's
Can't
like
change
the
it.
community plan.
And
And-
we've heard before, not particularly from the county, but we've heard before, well, we can't do that because it's not in the plan. It's not in the
Exactly.
plan. So I
That's
think we want to,
exactly
and I
right.
get that. So we want to make sure it's in the plan.
And if it's not in the plan specifically, that it's within the understanding of the plan. And that's why I was stressing the first principles. Like the first principles have to be up front and center. So if it's not directly in the plan, that you can go back and say, oh, but here within this statement, it shows what the priority is.
That's
I like
good.
that a lot. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I have a great committee. I thank
you have
my
Molly
committee
has her
members
hand up.
for, oh yes, Molly, I see your hand. Go ahead.
She's muted.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, Molly.
So it sounded like Jake Hudson, I'm just trying to understand if this is right. It sounds like he was saying that with all the changes with state and federal budget, that it's unclear that we would get funding that they might have otherwise anticipated. Is that what he was saying, that this plan may take longer than what the county originally anticipated?
So they don't know what the budget is, and so anything's possible. They use outside grants as well, other than just county money.
I think he was saying that if the plan is delayed because of our input, and they may miss out on grants that are available because of the delay. And then they
They're
point fingers at
available
us.
right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Yeah,
take
it's
that too
bogus.
far.
Bogus.
I have to agree with Andrea because quite honestly, the separated bike pedestrian path between Palisades and Pine, which is very doable. We don't have any big constraints there. We could have gotten funding for that last year because SLOCOG actually was expecting the county to come and ask them to fund that project. It's in the community plan. So it does already exist as infrastructure improvement, and they never did it. So I think that's an argument to try to get us to, come along, play nice and, do it, get it done. And I'm happy to do that as long as I'm comfortable with what's in the plan. So, yeah.
Is it too soon to just ask Morro Bay for their leftover roundabout money? Too soon? Not funny yet?
Oh, I don't think it's too soon. I think it's up for grabs right now. Let's go for it.
I digress. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Deborah.
Yeah, the funding issue about if we say, no, we don't want to move forward, then they're saying, well, we're not going to be able to do any more work on the plan because we're out of money for the consultant. And we're going to have to go back to SLOCOG and ask SLOCOG to give more money to pay the consultant to do this additional work that you're asking us to do. Now that's real. And to remind you, SLOCOG is the one that funded this corridor study, $250,000 and paid for the consultant to do this. So that would mean that, SLOCOG would have to find a way to fund it, and it could be on ice for a while.
One other question, Deborah, was back when this all started, was County Public Works communicating with you about it in the early stages of developing this plan?
Oh, you know what? I don't know what to say about that, Molly. It's been a tug of war, quite honestly.
Okay.
They sent the plan out to other groups. They called them the technical advisory committees, the bikeways committee and different other committees, like he said, the CHP and this and that. And I heard about it and I said, well, what about me? You want to send it to me? And I was told, no, you can't have it.
Oh,
Well, I don't take no for an answer very well. So I kind of, insisted, and I did eventually get it. And we went through it, and we actually had Josh Roberts and Jake Hudson come to Los Osos to the CSD offices and do a whole presentation for the Transportation Committee. And we went through it. And a lot of the comments that I have today are the exact same comments that we had back then.
Yeah, and that was December 4th, 2024.
So there's a tug of
Wow.
there in terms of getting information. And now here they come and say, well, you got to just say yes. And I'm like,
Yeah, they're kind of
No.
like pushing, it seemed like they're pushing us now to approve it. Yeah,
they are, because they want to get it done.
Nice
I want to
try.
get it done too.
yeah.
Nice try.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's my story.
We have
John.
one more question from
Yeah.
John.
To what degree, give me an example, for example, in your comments that you would give to Jake, could you argue, hey, Jake, just put this in the plan? This one line about this, about, whatever it is, better crosswalks or adjustments like taking out that crosswalk that isn't safe. Well, that won't cost any money to take that out. Well, could you advise them, hey, some of these things are no-brainers, and you could put them in the plan without any big cost or big delay? To what degree would that be possible?
I don't know.
Yeah.
They haven't really offered that as an option necessarily. So I think discussion with Jake, I could clarify how much flexibility he has to make changes to the plan without, having to start over in a way.
I think that the cost is going to be if they have to use the consultant, and do they have any money left in the consultant's contract?
Yeah, I don't really understand what the role of the consultant is versus the planning department, because I mean, was the consultant mostly doing the technical analysis on the counts and the turns and stuff like that, or were they actually writing the whole report?
I have no idea.
They're probably
wish I knew.
writing the report. Yeah,
Yeah, I would say the consultants probably did the
Yeah.
bulk of the work.
yeah.
Well,
Well,
Maybe
ultimately,
not.
though, it has to be approved by the board, so it seems like they could certainly put in some of the changes that right? It doesn't seem like it's unless it's, horrendously different. Yeah, I think we just
You
move
wouldn't
ahead
think
and
so.
make sure we're happy with the final document. That's
yeah,
important.
I'm going to give you an example that I want you to really take a look at. So Bush, they're putting a median in. And if you were wanting to turn into Rexall Drugs and you were traveling west on Los Osos Valley Road, you can't. You cannot turn into Rexall Drugs or to the Ale House because there's a median there. And when you get past the median, there's no place for you to make a U-turn to come back to get into the drugstore. And I pointed that out to them back in December, and it's still there. And I'm like, you don't understand. People are going to make illegal U-turns there.
Yeah.
But we
because
also
there's
brought
no
that out
way
at
to
the-
get in
We brought that up at the
to their
first town,
pharmacy.
at the first town hall, and that was over a year ago. And that it was unanimous from everyone who came to the town hall that the medians in front of, Rexall, the Ale House, all of those had to be deleted. We needed left turn lanes if
Mm.
at least. And so that one has been a constant from LOCAC, a constant from the community, that the medians are not going to work there because all of the U-turns would have been on 9th Street if you're going west to east, and then they would be on Palisades, and those aren't good intersections to be having lots of U-turns.
Yeah, just take a look at it. You'll see what I mean. So
Okay.
that's a biggie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a biggie.
Wow. That's frustrating.
It's a single lane road. It's not two lanes there. It's a single lane road.
Yeah.
Anyway, take a look at it. Bring me your comments. Let's move this forward. They want to get it done. We want to get it done. We want to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank
We
you
adjourn.
all. Anything
right.
else?
Good meeting.
Good
We're
meeting.
ready to adjourn. Okay, great. We'll adjourn then. Thank you all so much
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank you,
Night.
everybody.
Thank you.
Night.
Good night.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Call me, John.